solve using logic, skill, and the power of deduction. So, there are some easy puzzles in here that we'll start with, and we'll see how we do to move on to some harder ones. I'll be using this Rotring Rapid Pro 5.5 millimeter lead pencil, and then this standard cutesy eraser, which is Cinema Roll, I suppose. I don't know if that character's from a franchise, but I got this pretty cheap, and it suits my needs in that it is an eraser. So without further ado, let's get into some pencil and paper puzzle solving sounds. Now, I solved the first couple of these, so let's start here. Oh, that's our introduction on how to solve these puzzles. Essentially, we will be looking for a who, what, and where, like the game of Clue, if you're familiar to that. So let's start here on 4, the last train to murder. Once he got back to the mainland, Detective Logico, that's us, took a train. Unfortunately, somebody else took the life of the conductor. Now the train was racing down the tracks and nobody knew what to do except Logico. He knew he had to crack the case. So we have 3 suspects. Number 1 is Vice President Mauve, the Vice President of Techco Futures. If she asks you to step into her metaverse, politely decline. That's funny. I'm surprised Metaverse is not trademarked. Chef Aubergine. It is said that she once killed her husband, cooked him, and then served him at her restaurant. It's not true, but just the fact that it's said about her tells you something. And then there's little things about these people. So this one is right-handed, this one is also right-handed, and it looks like our third suspect is right-handed too. This is Philosopher Bone, a dashing, dark philosopher who pioneered the ethical theory that he is not responsible for his actions, but he should be paid for them. And our locations are the locomotive, the caboose, and the roof. Our weapons are an imported Italian knife, leather luggage, and a rolled-up newspaper with a crowbar inside. That's quite a nasty surprise. Okay, let's get into our clues. A page from the classifieds was found near the heat of a steam engine. So, the classified is from the newspaper, and that was in the locomotive, the steam engine. So, steam engine, rolled up newspaper. That is our correct placement. Chef Aubergine and the person who brought leather luggage had a history together. Okay, so Chef Aubergine did not bring the leather luggage. The tallest suspect never set foot in the caboose. So our tallest suspect is Vice President Mauve, and she was not in the caboose. Philosopher Bone was seen wandering around outdoors, so that might be the roof then. Philosopher Bone was on the roof. Now, the conductor had been stabbed, so maybe this is enough for us to go on, maybe not, but we do know that the what is an imported Italian knife. And I hope that these pencil sounds are being picked up well in the future. If they're not, I may move my mic down a little closer. So we'll see how this goes. Chef Aubergine was in the caboose. Okay. Let's go through these again. So the classifieds was at the steam engine. So then, who brought the classifieds? It would have been Vice President Mauve. Which means that the leather luggage, well, it looks like it would have to have come with Philosopher Bone. And then the imported Italian knife came with Chef Aubergine, which makes sense. She's a chef. I recognize when I do this, it's a little hard to tell like what's correct and what's incorrect because the X's and the stars look pretty similar, but I find that the X and check look more similar to me. So we can do something like this. But for right now, it seems like things kind of stick out enough for us to know. So we now know who it was, Chef Aubergine. And Chef Aubergine was in the caboose. So we can check our answers to see if we're right. Maybe we'll do that after we solve a couple of these. Physician, heal myself. When Detective Logico came in a private hospital, he knew his injuries wouldn't hurt half as much as the bill. But his surgeon, Dr. Crimson, offered a trade. If he solved another patient's murder, they'd give him a 2% discount. He immediately agreed. 2% discount, that's pretty funny. Okay, our suspects are Officer Copper, Dr. Crimson, Sister Lapis, and our locations are the parking lot, the roof, and the gift shop. The weapons are a vial of acid, a heavy microscope, and a surgical scalpel. So, let's start off with this bold clue this time. This seems to give us the most information. The patient's body was found beneath a luxury sedan, so the where is parking lot. Please try not to be too judgmental of my handwriting. Alright, now we'll go from the top. A vial of acid was certainly not on the roof. They had acid detecting sensors up there. Well, that's good. And we should all be outfitting our roofs with those. The suspect who was in the gift shop had light brown eyes. Okay, let's take a look. We have blue eyes, green eyes, and light brown eyes. So that is Sister Lapis, who was in the gift shop. Officer Copper had a weapon with a label on it reading, "Do not drink." That could be any of them. Now, of course, that is the vial of acid, so Dr. Copper did not have either of these. And the doctor nor the sister had the vial of acid. Surprisingly, Dr. Crimson did not bring her surgical scalpel, or any surgical scalpel for that matter. Okay, so Dr. Crimson did not have the scalpel. That means Dr. Crimson had the microscope. And the sister had the scalpel. Okay, now let's see. Officer Copper had the vial of acid, and there was no acid on the roof. So we can surmise that Officer Copper was not on the roof, meaning he was in the parking lot. So overseer. The who is Dr. Copper. And the what is a vial of acid. Alright, let's move right along. This is Murder in the Alley, and this will probably be the last easy puzzle that we solve, and I'm thinking I may actually get a different pencil as well, because this pencil is just a bit too quiet. I'd like to get an old-fashioned yellow pencil, so I'll be doing that right after this. Murder in the Alley. While Deductive Logico was walking home, he was stopped in a dark alley by a dark figure who said that Dame Obsidian was guilty. She'd framed a semi-innocent magician. See Case 1. Before the dark figure could say more, he was murdered. Oh my. So, our suspects are 1. General Coffee, 2. Cosmonaut Bluesky, and 3. Midnight the 3rd. Our locations are the metal fence, the dumpsters, the distracting graffiti, and our weapons are a piano wire, a crowbar, and a poisonous dart. Alright, let's jump into these clues, and again we can start at the bottom. Our best clue is there was an awful smell around the body, even for a body. Interesting, so that would probably mean the dumpster. Okay. Midnight the 3rd had that familiar chain link pattern pressed into his face. Poor guy. Cosmonaut Bluesky always packed for outer space. He had a lightweight weapon, so that is either the piano wire or the poisonous dart, meaning it is not the crowbar. The detective club sent Logico a message written in detective code. See Exhibit A. We might have to flip back to that. Cosmonaut Bluesky did not bring piano wire. He was tone deaf. Hilarious. Okay. So Cosmonaut Bluesky did bring the poison dart. And either a crowbar or a poisonous dart was by the distracting graffiti. So what we can learn from this is that the let's see, crowbar or poisonous dart. So the piano wire was not next to the graffiti. I am not sure that this gives us enough to go on yet. Let's see if we can solve this message here. See Exhibit A. Okay. So it is essentially like a back and forth cipher. So the A's are Z's, the Z's are A's, and so on. So let's do that now. I think it might make it easier for us if we sort of fold the page like this so that we can see both at the same time. We can start backwards if we like. Okay, I can tell that word is crowbar. Okay, the crowbar. Coffee had the piano wire, and Midnight the Third had the crowbar. Now, we know that the chain link fence is Midnight the Third, so we can move the crowbar over as well to the chain link fence. That means the piano wire was found in the dumpster. So, piano wire was found near the dumpster, which we know is where and we know General Coffee did not have the crowbar. General Coffee had the piano wire, so the suspect we will frame is General Coffee. And we'll see how we did here. Okay, here are our solutions. So, we started at number 4. It was Chef Aubergine with an imported Italian knife in the caboose. Let's see if that's what we wrote down. It is indeed Chef Aubergine with an imported Italian knife in the caboose. Next, it was Officer Copper with a vial of acid in the parking lot. And that is indeed what we have here, Dr. Copper with a vial of acid in the parking lot. And finally, it was General Coffee with piano wire in the dumpster. And that is what we have here, General Coffee with the piano wire in the dumpster. Alright, well that's all 3 of our simple puzzles solved. Let's move on to some of the more difficult. Let's see if it tells me. Oh, it just says at the top of the puzzle. Okay, there's a 2-star, so we can start at puzzle number 47. And I will go and get a new pencil. Okay, I have retrieved this Ticonderoga soft pencil. And let's see how these sounds are. A little more like what I was expecting. Okay, let's get into our next puzzle. This is the mystery of the mysterious island. The ship had crashed on an island filled with mysteries, like why was the lighthouse not lit, and what was the point of having a lighthouse if you weren't going to light it, and who just screamed, and who killed the captain. So our suspects are MX Tangerine, 2 Baron Maroon, and 3 Astrologer Azure. Our locations are the Dead Woods, the Cliffside Lighthouse, and the ruined church. And our weapons are an old sword, a spoiled toxic blowfish, and a shovel. Okay, here we go. Statements. Remember, the murderer is lying. The others are telling the truth. Oh, I love these puzzles. I've been playing Blueprints recently, and there's a lot of puzzles like this. So let's see if we can suss out the answer. Well, if you ask me, Astrologer Azure brought a shovel. A toxic blowfish was in the ruined church. Look at the stars. They say MX Tangerine brought a toxic blowfish. Okay, so we'll find out. The weapon at the Cliffside Lighthouse was not rusted. Okay, so let's see. An old sword, it's all rusted. So the weapon at the Cliffside Lighthouse was not rusted. So it would not be Scorpio. Now we have to know all their birthdays, don't we? Oh, it just gives us their sign immediately, so. Baron Maroon. Suspect number 2 was in the dead woods. That means that Baron Maroon here did not use, well, actually we don't know for sure. They might have used the sword. Okay. Now, let's see if we can solve this puzzle. One says a toxic blowfish was in the ruined church, and this one says they say that Imix Tangerine brought a toxic blowfish. Something that we don't know is where the body was found. I wonder if there are more clues. There are not. So, let's see. We'll have to suss this out by the murder weapon, or I guess the murder location. So, if a toxic blowfish was found in the ruined church, so-and-so brought a toxic blowfish, astrologer Azure brought a shovel. Interesting. A Scorpio was in the dead woods. Now, I don't think this gives us a lot of information here. We only know one person's location right now. We know where one weapon wasn't, so let's just assume that the first one is lying. Because these two mention the same thing, it would be probably easier to find out if we have a negative or not here. So the toxic blowfish was in the ruined church, we can say that. And then Imix Tangerine brought the poison blowfish. This is still not telling us where they were found. They discovered why the flame wasn't lit. The keeper was long dead. The roof is caved in and the church is spoiled. All the trees are dead, but still something lives in these woods. So it does not tell us where they were found, so we will have to figure out who is the murderer and where the murder occurred by finding out which one is lying. So, if this is accurate, then the shovel would be in the lighthouse. And let's see. Either of these could be in the dead woods, but Imix Tangerine would be lying and saying the astrologer brought a shovel, which would mean instead that the Baron had brought a shovel. And that would then mean that the shovel was used, or found rather, in the dead woods. And I think this lets things line up here. The Baron had the toxic blowfish in the ruined church, and the astrologer had the sword in the... Oh, do you know what? I've got two things wrong here. So, if the astrologer brought the shovel, then here, and the shovel would be in the dead woods. So, why did I have this crossed out? sword, and the sword would not be in the Deadwoods. I think maybe we've discovered that one of these isn't true. Let's see. Astrologer Azure brought a shovel. That would mean that Astrologer Azure brought the sword that the Baron had brought. The shovel, and the Baron was in the Deadwoods, so the shovel would be in the Deadwoods. And we know that the sword was not in the lighthouse, so that looks like how we know it is false. Okay, so somewhere along the way there was a falsehood. Now, let's try it the other way around. Let's say that the last person is lying. They say that MX Tangerine brought a toxic blowfish. So that would mean that MX Tangerine did not bring a blowfish, but that a blowfish was used in the church. That would mean that the shovel was found in the lighthouse, and the sword was found in the Deadwoods. Now, the first clue rather, is Astrologer Azure brought a shovel. So we are assuming that is true in this case. And then the shovel location was in the lighthouse. That matches up. It would mean that MX Tangerine brought a sword, and that sword cannot have been in the lighthouse. It was in fact in the church. So the person who was lying, it seems, is Astrologer Azure. Because unless I'm crazy, everything else makes sense. So Baron Maroon had a toxic blowfish. Wait, it doesn't make sense. Baron Maroon is the Scorpio. The Scorpio is in the Deadwoods. And so the blowfish has to also be in the Deadwoods. So it would appear this too is incorrect. This is very confusing to me. Okay, so I believe the person now who is lying is Baron Maroon. So that would mean that Baron Maroon is the murderer. The where is in the Deadwoods. I don't know why I wrote that below the line. That looks silly. Why did I write that there? Okay, now this is a falsehood. So the toxic blowfish was in the ruined church. That means the toxic blowfish was not in the ruined church. Astrologer Azure did bring a shovel. And MX Tangerine brought the toxic blowfish. That means that, what's his face here, Baron Maroon, used a sword. Alright, before we do another one of these, I do want to check this answer because I'm doubting myself. suspects are Philosopher Bone, Brother Brownstone, and Sister Lapis. Our locations are the flooded pews, the overgrown organ, and the cracked altar. And our weapons are a rock, a string of prayer beads, and a holy relic. So, Philosopher Bone never set foot in the flooded pews. He wouldn't get his feet wet. The suspect at the cracked altar was born on December 25th. Okay, so let's see. I'm pretty sure that is, it says the Exhibit B, so I don't know offhand the, Exhibit B must be here. There we go. So, that is a Capricorn. Look at this, there's alchemical symbols here too. Maybe we should have read these. Okay. So that is a Capricorn. The only Capricorn is Brother Brownstone. So Brother Brownstone was at the cracked altar. That means that Sister Lapis was in the flooded pews. And Philosopher Bone was at the overgrown organ. Now we have our statements. Let's see. So, all of these we can't immediately disqualify. This says Sister Lapis did not bring a rock. Philosopher Bone brought a rock. Those could both easily be true. So, if we say that's true, and then a holy relic was not in the overgrown organ, let's say it was. That would mean that the overgrown organ, that would mean that he had both the, the holy relic was not found in the overgrown organ, so that would actually just be this. We know that the overgrown organ is where Philosopher Bone was, so we could say that the rock is here, and it doesn't give us a lot to go on. In fact, I think that's too little for us to solve this puzzle, so I think we will have to assume that one of these two is lying. Alright, let's say that Philosopher Bone is lying. So, first option, believe women. Sister Lapis says Philosopher Bone brought a rock. Wait, this is what we just did. Okay, so if Philosopher Bone did not bring a rock, he did bring a rock, then that also means Sister Lapis did not bring a rock. So that is sort of the same thing. So let's say Philosopher Bone, let's just flip it. Philosopher Bone did not bring a rock. Sister Lapis did not bring a rock. That would mean that Brother Brownstone brought the rock. Let's see. And we are saying that who is the murderer here? Sister Lapis. In this case, if Philosopher Bone did not bring a rock, then we would have Sister Lapis was in the flooded pews. so much on the line. You can't accuse somebody of murder with sleepiness and a star chart as your only evidence. Okay, moving right along. We don't know a thing about these prayer beads. Except, I guess, we know that Philosopher Bone had those prayer beads, and Sister Lapis had the holy relic, which was found, presumably then, in the flooded pews. Wait, I think I've written this wrong. The suspect at the cracked altar was born on December 25th. Oh, that's Brother Brownstone. I had their icons confused for a moment. Okay, so Sister Lapis was in the flooded pews with the holy relic. I think this makes sense. Does the rest of this make sense? Let's see. The prayer beads in the, what do you call it? The rock in the altar. I guess the rest of this makes sense. So let's say Sister Lapis with the holy relic in the flooded pews. Alright, and that's enough brain exercise for me. We want 47 here. Oh, I'm sorry, 48. It was Sister Lapis with a holy relic in the flooded pews. So, that is the correct answer. We did it. Alright, well, like I said, that is all of my puzzle solving ability expended. If you like this, these puzzles are called Myrtle Volume 1. I recognize that the content is a bit macabre, but that is, I kind of like this sort of thing. It's got a bit of the true crime kind of aspect. Obviously none of it's true, but there's something about the investigation of it that does come appealing in the world of crime. So I do have other logic puzzles. If you'd like to see me try some of those, let me know. Also, let me know if you prefer the classic wooden pencil or the modern German-engineered Rotring mechanical pencil. And I will see you all in the next one.